The airport lounge was too quiet for a place filled with arrivals and departures, like the world was holding its breath before something important happened. Amara Cole stood near the large glass window, her worn suitcase beside her, fingers tightly wrapped around the handle like it was the only solid thing left in her life. She had just landed in London after accepting what seemed like an ordinary caregiving job as a temporary nanny for a wealthy family she had never met. She wasn't expecting luxury. She wasn't expecting warmth either. What she definitely wasn't expecting was the two small boys standing in front of her, identical faces, identical nervousness, and one shared question that stopped her in place. "Can you act like our mum?" Amara blinked. "Excuse me." One of the twins stepped forward, clutching a small stuffed bear. "Just for a little while," he added quickly, like he was afraid she'd run away from the question itself. The other twin looked down at his shoes. "We just want to know what it feels like, even for a day." Amara felt her chest tighten. Kids said strange things sometimes, but this wasn't playful. This was heavy, like it had been rehearsed too many times. They in their heads. Before she could respond, a tall man in a dark coat appeared behind them. Caleb Harrington. She didn't know his name yet, but she would soon. His presence changed the air, instantly controlled, sharp, unreadable. He looked at the twins first, then at her, like he was observing a result he had carefully engineered. "Miss Cole," he said calmly. "Thank you for coming." Amara nodded slowly. "I was told this is a nanny position." "It is," he replied. A pause. Among other things, the twins didn't move away from her. In fact, they stood closer, as if afraid she might disappear. The boy with the bear tugged lightly at her sleeve. "Please don't say no yet." Amara looked down at him. His eyes weren't just asking, they were pleading from somewhere deeper than words. She had worked with children before. She had seen tantrums, loneliness, attachment issues. But this felt different. This felt like absence shaped into a question. "I need to understand what you're asking," she said gently. The second twin spoke this time. "Our mom. She's not here anymore." Silence dropped like a heavy curtain. Amara's breath caught, but she stayed steady. "I'm sorry." The boys accept. Hanged a look, like that wasn't the answer they were used to hearing. Caleb stepped in. "They've been without a maternal figure for a long time. I thought structured care would help." His tone was professional, too professional, but Amara noticed something else. He didn't stay on her face. They kept drifting to the twins, like he was checking if they were still holding together. One of the boys whispered again, barely audible, "We don't need perfect. We just need someone who stays." That word hit harder than expected. "Stays." Caleb cleared his throat. "You are free to refuse. This arrangement is unusual." Amara looked at the twins again. Small hands, two quiet eyes for children their age. They weren't asking for a role. They were asking for something they didn't know how to name properly. "I won't replace anyone," she said carefully. The boys' faces fell instantly. "But," she added, "I can stay with you, if that's what you need." It wasn't a promise of motherhood. It wasn't pretend. It was presence. The twins didn't hesitate. They both grabbed her hands at the same time. Caleb watched this moment closely, his expression unreadable. "Then it settled," he said. The house was larger than anything Amara had ever stepped into. White stone, glass walls, silence that felt expensive. But it wasn't the house that unsettled her. It was the emptiness inside it. Rooms looked lived in but untouched. A piano covered in dust. A hallway lined with photographs where someone had clearly been cropped out. The twins Ethan and Noah, she learned, never left her side that first evening. They showed her their toys, their drawings, their routines, and then, quietly, like it was the most normal thing in the world, Ethan asked again, "Can you tuck us in like a mom would?" Amara paused at the doorway of their room. The bed was too big for two small bodies? She nodded, yes. That night, she read them a story from a book that wasn't theirs. Noah asked her to sit between them until they fell asleep, and when they finally did, their fingers still held onto her sleeves. She didn't move for a long time. From the hallway, Caleb watched without entering. Days turned into a rhythm no one had planned. Breakfast, school, homework, bedtime stories. But something shifted slowly. The boys stopped asking her to act like anything. They just started asking her to stay longer, Amara noticed things Caleb didn't say out loud. How he always stood a step too far away from them. How he never corrected them when they called her almost mom. How he watched her when she didn't notice. One afternoon, Noah spilled juice across the kitchen table and froze instantly, panic rising in his eyes like it wasn't about juice at all. Before Caleb could speak, Amara knelt down. "It's okay," she said softly. "It's just juice. We clean it, that's all. No punishment, no disappointment, just calm." The boy's shoulders slowly dropped. Caleb noticed everything. That night, he stood in the garden while Amara put the twins to bed. "You're different from the others," he said suddenly when she joined him outside. Amara raised an eyebrow. "Others? We've tried caregivers before. I'm not a replacement," she said again, firmer this time. "I know," Caleb replied, but his voice softened. "That's why they listen to you." A long silence stretched between them. Then he said something unexpected. This wasn't just a job posting. Amara turned slightly. "What do you mean?" His jaw tightened. "I needed to know if someone could care for them without trying to fix them, or leave when it gets difficult." Her eyes narrowed. So this was a test? Caleb didn't deny it. And that answer said enough. The shift came one evening without warning. Ethan had a nightmare. Not unusual this time, he didn't just cry. He called out for her, not his father. Amara ran into the room before anyone else could react. She held him as he shook, whispering steady words until his breathing slowed. Noah stood in the doorway watching, silent tears falling without sound. Caleb arrived last. He didn't speak. He just stood there, seeing something he hadn't planned for, something real. The next morning, Ethan said it out loud at breakfast. "She feels like home." The words landed heavier than anything else in the room. Caleb's hand stopped midair. Amara didn't respond, she just kept pouring milk. But something had changed. Later that week, Caleb called her into his study. The room was lined with documents, contracts, decisions. "I should tell you the truth," he said. Amara stayed quiet. He exhaled. "I didn't hire you randomly. I searched for you." That made her pause. "Search? I needed someone who wouldn't try to replace their mother. Eon who could exist without taking anything from them." Amara's voice was low. "And you decided I was that person before meeting me?" "No," he said immediately. "I decided nothing. I just hoped." A long silence followed. Then he added, "Quieter. They asked for you by name after seeing your application photo. I didn't tell you that." Amara froze. "They chose you before I did." From outside the room, faint laughter echoed Ethan, and Noah running through the hallway calling for her. Amara turned slightly toward the sound. Caleb watched her carefully, and for the first time the distance between all of them didn't feel like a wall anymore. It felt like something already breaking apart slowly, piece by piece, without anyone needing to force it. The house felt different after that night, like something inside it had quietly shifted position, even if no one admitted it out loud. Amara noticed it first in the twins. Ethan stopped asking if she would leave after every small mistake. Noah stopped watching doors like someone might disappear through them mid-sentence. They still clung to her presence, but not out of panic anymore, more like certainty was finally becoming familiar. But Caleb Harrington, he grew quieter. Not absent, never absent, just distant in a way that felt intentional. He stopped joining dinner sometimes. He started working later in his study. And when he did appear, it was always brief, watching, observing, leaving again like he was trying not to interfere with something fragile that had already started forming without his permission. Amara didn't ask questions at first. That was part of her nature. She didn't force doors open just because they were slightly ajar. But one afternoon, she noticed something that didn't fit. A locked drawer in Caleb's study. It wasn't the lock itself that stood out. It was the fact that Noah had drawn it. A child's sketch, left on the edge of the desk, two small boys holding hands in front of a tall house. And in the background, a woman with blurred features standing behind glass. Amara picked it up slowly. When she asked Noah about it later, he hesitated. "I saw Daddy looking at it before," he said quietly. "He doesn't like when we talk about her too much." Amara's hand tightened slightly. "Her?" Ethan answered instead, voice smaller. "Our real mom." That sentence should have been simple. It wasn't, because something in the way he said it didn't sound like loss alone. It sounded like confusion. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. The house was silent but not peaceful. It had layers now, memories pressed into its walls, things unsaid moving behind closed doors. She found Caleb in the garden again, same place as before, but this time, he wasn't just standing, he was looking at something in his hand, a photograph. When he noticed her, he didn't hide it. That was new. "You're awake late," he said. "I could say the same," she replied, stepping closer. The photograph caught the dim light. It showed the twins younger, maybe 4 years old, and a woman holding them. Her face was visible this time, soft smile, warm eyes, familiarity in the way she touched their hair. Amara's voice lowered. "That's their mother." Caleb nodded once. Silence stretched. Then Amara asked the question carefully, like stepping onto unstable ground. "Where is she now?" For a moment, Caleb didn't answer, and in that pause, something about him felt heavier than usual, like a decision he had been carrying for too long without setting it down. "Gone," he said finally. Amara studied him. That's not a full answer." A faint exhale left him. "It's the only one I've been able to give them." That didn't make sense, and Caleb knew it, because he looked away immediately after saying it. Amara didn't push further that night, but something inside her shifted. The next day, everything looked normal again on the surface. Breakfast, school bags, shoes left by the door. But children noticed silence differently than adults. Noah watched Caleb longer than usual that morning. Ethan didn't touch his food until Amara sat beside him. And Caleb didn't meet Amara's eyes once. That alone said enough. It was Noah who broke first. That evening, while Amara helped them build something out of blocks in the living room, he suddenly stopped and asked, "Did Daddy lie to us?" Ethan froze. Amara went still. "Why would you ask that?" she said gently. Noah looked down. "Because Mommy isn't gone." The room went quiet in a way that felt sharp. Even Ethan turned toward him. "What do you mean?" Ethan whispered. Noah's hands tightened around a small block. "I saw her picture in Daddy's drawer before. She wasn't sick. She wasn't—" He struggled for words, like they said, "A." Mara's chest tightened slightly, but her voice stayed steady. "What did they say?" Noah hesitated. "Then they said she left." Silence again, but this time it didn't feel empty. It felt like something had cracked open. That night, Amara didn't wait. She went straight to Caleb's study. The door was slightly open this time. He was already inside, waiting, like he knew she would come. "You should have told me," she said immediately. Caleb didn't argue. Instead, he placed the photograph on the desk between them. "She didn't die," he said quietly. Amara narrowed her eyes. "Then where is she?" His expression tightened, not with anger, but something closer to restraint. "Separated," he corrected. "Legally." That word changed the air. Amara stepped forward. From the children, Caleb finally looked at her fully now, and what she saw there wasn't avoidance anymore. It was exhaustion. "She made a decision," he said. "One I didn't agree with. One I couldn't explain to them without breaking what little stability they had left." Amara didn't respond immediately, because there were too many layers under that sentence. Then she said carefully, "So instead of telling the truth, you built a different one." Caleb didn't deny it. Outside the room, faint footsteps passed, small, barefoot, hesitant. Both of them went silent. The twins were awake, listening. Amara turned slightly toward the door, then back at Caleb. "They deserve truth," she said softly. Caleb's voice lowered. "They deserve peace." A pause. Then Amara replied, even softer, "Sometimes they're the same thing." And for the first time, Caleb didn't have an answer ready. The silence after that conversation didn't end when Amara left the study. It followed her, through the hallway, up the stairs, into the twins' room where she sat with them long after they had fallen asleep again, this time not from comfort, but from emotional exhaustion they were too young to fully understand. Ethan had asked one last question before drifting off. "Is Daddy lying to protect us, or because he's scared?" Amara hadn't answered immediately, because the truth wasn't simple enough for a child, or maybe even for adults. Now, in the quiet darkness, she looked at both boys and thought about how much of their world had been built on carefully chosen words, and how fragile that kind of protection always was. The next morning, something was different. Caleb didn't leave early. He stayed, not in his study, not behind glass doors, but in the kitchen, watching the twins eat breakfast like he was trying to understand a language he had stopped speaking long ago. Noah noticed first. He didn't say anything, just watched his father the way you watch someone you're not sure you're allowed to approach. Ethan, however, was more direct. "Are you mad at us?" he asked suddenly. Caleb froze slightly. "No," he said. Never. But Ethan didn't look convinced. Amara stepped in gently. He's not mad. Sometimes adults just get quiet when they're thinking. That wasn't entirely true, but it was easier to swallow than the real explanation. Caleb looked at her then, not grateful, not angry, but something more complicated. Like he was noticing how naturally she translated pain into something children could carry. That afternoon, the twins were at school. The house felt too big without them. Caleb stood near the window in the living room while Amara folded laundry quietly on the sofa. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then Caleb said, "They trust you more than me now. Amara D. Don't look up. They trust safety, not people. That's not comforting. It's honest." That made him turn slightly. "You think I failed them," he said. Amara paused, not immediately agreeing, not immediately disagreeing. Then she answered carefully, "I think you've been trying to protect them alone for too long." A quiet beat. Caleb's voice lowered. "You don't know what happened between me and their mother." "I know enough," Amara replied. That made him stop, because she didn't sound like she was guessing anymore. By the time the twins returned home, tension had already settled into the house like weather that refused to move. But something else came with them, a folded note. Noah handed it to Amara first. "Teacher said it was in Ethan's bag," he said quietly. Amara opened it slowly, only a few lines, but enough. Her expression changed instantly. Caleb noticed from across the room. "What is it?" he asked. Amara didn't answer right away. Ethan shifted nervously. "I didn't write it." Noah added quickly. "It was already there." Amara finally spoke, voice careful. "It's from their mother." The room went still. Caleb stepped forward sharply. "That's impossible." "La." But Amara was already reading it again. The handwriting was real, familiar in a way that didn't feel random. And the words weren't long, just enough to reopen everything carefully buried. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving you." Caleb's jaw tightened. "That doesn't change anything," he said immediately. Amara looked up at him. "It changes everything for them." The twins stood frozen. Ethan whispered, "She wrote to us." Caleb's voice was controlled, but strained now. "This is manipulation. Someone is trying, or she found a way," Amara interrupted softly. That shut the room down again, because no one moved after that, not even Caleb. That night, no one slept properly. Ethan kept asking if letters could really travel from someone who was gone. Noah didn't ask anything, but he kept the note under his pillow like it might disappear if he let go. And Caleb stayed in his study longer than usual. Amara watched all of it, and for the first time she saw the real weight Caleb had been carrying wasn't just control. It was fear of what truth might undo. Later, long after the house had gone quiet again, Amara found him in the corridor. He wasn't moving. "Jew!" St. standing outside the twins' room, listening. "They're not sleeping," she said softly. "I know," he replied. A pause. Then he added, quieter, "They think she's coming back." Amara looked at him carefully. "Do they?" Caleb didn't answer immediately. Then, barely above a whisper, "Or do I?" That question lingered in the air longer than either of them expected, because neither of them moved after it, and somewhere behind the closed door, the twins' voices could still be heard, two small hopes trying to understand a world adults had already made too complicated to explain. The note didn't just change the house. It changed the way everyone breathed inside it. By morning, even the smallest sounds felt louder: the clink of cups, footsteps on stairs, the rustle of curtains, like the house itself was waiting for something to happen next. Amara woke early, not because she wanted to, but because she couldn't stay asleep. When she reached the kitchen, Caleb was already there, coffee untouched, eyes fixed on the table like he had been there for hours without moving. "You didn't sleep," she said quietly. "Neither did you," he replied. A pause stretched between them, then a more. Placed the folded note on the counter. "I want to see her," she said. Caleb looked up instantly. "That's not possible. Everything you've told them is starting to crack," Amara replied. "They're old enough now. They're starting to ask questions you can't control anymore." His voice sharpened slightly. "You think I don't know that?" Amara held his gaze. "Then stop trying to control it." That landed harder than she intended. Caleb stood slowly. "You don't understand what she did." "I understand what they need," she corrected. Silence. Then, softer. "And right now it's truth, not pieces of it, not versions of it." Caleb turned away, jaw tight. For a moment, it looked like he might end the conversation completely. But instead, he said something unexpected. Then come with me. The drive was long, too long for conversation that wasn't happening. Caleb didn't explain where they were going. Amara didn't ask again. The road moved from city edges into quieter stretches, trees, older buildings, places that didn't belong to the world of glass walls and controlled silence. Eventually, the car slowed, stopped in front of a small residential building, nothing like their home. No gates, no guards, just a simple door. Amara looked at him. She's here? Caleb nodded once. She chose to live away from them, he said, but not away from here. That distinction didn't make things easier. It made them heavier. Inside, the building was quiet. A hallway. A door at the end. Caleb didn't knock immediately. That hesitation said more than anything he had said so far. Amara noticed it. You don't have to come in, she said softly. His answer came after a long pause. Yes, I do. He knocked. Once, then again. Footsteps approached from inside. Slow, measured. The door opened. And everything Amara had prepared herself for still wasn't enough. The woman standing there was calm. Not broken, not lost. Just different from the photograph. Older in expression, not in age. Like someone who had already survived the version of the story everyone else was still inside. Her eyes moved from Caleb to Amara, then stopped. Recognition didn't come instantly, but understanding did. You brought her, the woman said softly. Caleb's voice was controlled. We needed answers. A faint, almost tired exhale. I thought I gave you enough of those already. Advice. Amara stepped slightly forward. They received your note. That changed the air immediately. The woman's expression tightened, not with anger, but something more complicated. I didn't send that, she said firmly. Silence. Caleb's face changed instantly. What? The woman shook her head. I haven't contacted the children, not directly. Not like that. Amara felt the shift immediately. Something was wrong. Caleb stepped forward. Then who? I don't know, she interrupted. But I can guess. A pause. Then she added quietly, someone's still inside your house. The words hit like a slow impact, not loud, just unavoidable. Back in the car, the silence was different, no longer emotional. Now it was alert. Caleb's hands stayed tight on the wheel even when they weren't moving. Amara finally spoke. Someone is manipulating them. I know, Caleb said sharply. But you didn't know before, she replied. That made him go quiet again, because it was true. When they returned, the house felt unchanged on the surface, but Amara felt it immediately. Something small, off, the kind of shift only noticed when you start paying attention to everything. The twins ran toward her as soon as she stepped inside. Ethan hugged her tightly. Noah held her hand longer than usual, but their eyes kept drifting behind her, looking for something else. Someone else. Caleb noticed it too, and for the first time since all of this began, his voice wasn't controlled when he spoke. Where is Mrs. Lang, the housekeeper, the one who had been with them longer than anyone else? Silence answered first, then footsteps from the hallway. Slow, confident. Mrs. Lang appeared, but she wasn't carrying anything, not cleaning, not working, just watching. And when she spoke, her voice was calm in a way that didn't belong in that moment. I wondered how long it would take, she said. Caleb's expression changed instantly. Amara understood before he even spoke, because sometimes betrayal doesn't arrive loudly. It arrives like someone who already knew where to stand the entire time. The moment Mrs. Lang smiled, the room stopped feeling like home. It felt like a trap that had been quietly tightening for months without anyone noticing the strings. Caleb didn't move at first, not because he was calm, but because he was calculating. Amara felt it beside him, the shift in his posture, the way his attention sharpened like something had finally aligned into focus. Say that again, Caleb said quietly. Mrs. Lang tilted her head slightly. I said I wondered how long it would take. Ethan stepped back instinctively. Noah grabbed Amara's hand harder. Amara didn't look away from the housekeeper, because something about her expression wasn't surprise or panic. It was certainty. You wrote the note, Amara said. A soft laugh left Mrs. Lang. Smart girl. That was enough confirmation. Caleb's voice turned cold. Why? Mrs. Lang glanced at the twins briefly, just briefly enough to make both boys flinch. Because, she said calmly, truth is expensive in a house like this. Silence dropped again, but this time it wasn't confusion, it was realization. Amara stepped forward slightly. You made them believe their mother abandoned them. Mrs. Lang didn't deny it. I made them believe what they needed to survive, she corrected. Caleb's jaw tightened. You don't decide what my children need. Mrs. Lang's eyes flicked to him. Don't I? That question wasn't rhetorical. It was pointed, like she had been waiting a long time to say it. The twins were trembling now. Ethan's voice cracked. Where is she? Mrs. Lang softened her tone instantly, like switching masks. Oh, sweetheart, she said gently. Your mother is safe. Amara didn't like that word. Safe never meant simple things in situations like this. Noah stepped forward, voice small. Then why doesn't she come home? Mrs. Lang hesitated for just a fraction of a second. That hesitation gave everything away. Caleb noticed it too. You don't control her, he said slowly. Mrs. Lang's smile faded slightly. No, she admitted, but I controlled what she could reach. The room tightened again. Amara's voice dropped. You isolated her. Mrs. Lang didn't answer immediately. Then, quietly, I protected this family from collapse. Caleb took a step forward. By destroying it? A pause. Then Mrs. Lang's expression changed just slightly. Less warmth, more truth. You were going to choose her over them, she said to Caleb. The twins froze. Caleb went still. Amara felt the shift in gravity inside the room. That's not true, Caleb said firmly. But Mrs. Lang shook her head. I saw the letters, she said. The conversations. The plans you made to reconcile. Amara looked at Cal. B sharply. This was new information. Caleb didn't deny it. That silence confirmed it. Ethan's voice broke through suddenly. So she didn't leave us? Mrs. Lang turned to him slowly. No, she said softly. She was pushed out of reach. The words hit differently. Not like loss. Like theft. Noah whispered, by you? Mrs. Lang didn't answer immediately. Then she said something that made the entire room freeze. By necessity, Amara felt something shift inside her chest, because that wasn't guilt. That was justification. Caleb's voice turned dangerously quiet. You're fired, Mrs. Lang laughed once. Short. Controlled. You can't fire me from something I already finished shaping. The twins flinched at her tone. Amara stepped closer to them instinctively. Caleb moved too, but more like containment than comfort. You're leaving this house, he said. Mrs. Lang looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, You think I'm the only one who knows where she is? That stopped everything again. Even Caleb. Amara felt it immediately. That wasn't a threat. It was a signal. The silence that followed lasted too long. Then a small sound. A phone vibrating. Ethan's school bag. Everyone turned. Number. R slowly pulled it open. Inside, another envelope. Same handwriting style. Same careful placement. But this one wasn't addressed to the twins. It was addressed to Caleb. Amara's stomach tightened. Caleb took it without hesitation, opened it, read it, and for the first time since Amara had known him, his expression completely broke. Not anger, not control, something far worse, recognition. Mrs. Lang smiled faintly. Now you understand, she said softly. Caleb's voice came out low. Where did you get this? Mrs. Lang turned slightly toward the hallway. I didn't get it, she said. I delivered it. Amara felt her heart drop. Caleb looked up sharply. To who? Mrs. Lang's eyes moved slowly toward the stairs. From her. A pause. Then she added quietly. She's already closer than you think. For a second, no one moved. Not Caleb, not Amara, not even the twins. The house felt like it had tilted slightly off balance, like gravity itself was waiting for someone to confirm which direction was real. Then Ethan spoke, voice barely holding together. She's here! No answer came immediately. Because Mrs. Lang didn't look at him. She was looking at Caleb, watching him process whatever was written. 10 in that letter. Amara stepped closer. What did it say? Caleb didn't respond right away. His fingers tightened around the paper, not shaking. Controlled, too controlled. Then he finally spoke, voice low. It's a meeting request. Amara frowned. From her? Caleb nodded once. Noah whispered, our mum? That word again? Mum. It didn't sound like a role anymore. It sounded like a missing piece that kept changing shape depending on who touched it. Caleb looked at Mrs. Lang. You said she was close. Mrs. Lang's expression stayed calm. She is. Amara narrowed her eyes. Define close. A pause. Then Mrs. Lang said softly, close enough to see the house. The air shifted again. Ethan turned toward the window instantly. Noah followed. Caleb moved faster. All of them went to the glass. Outside, nothing obvious. just the long driveway, the gate, the quiet street beyond. But Caleb's eyes scanned differently now, not like a man looking at space, like a man looking for movement inside it. Amara spoke quietly. "This isn't random." Caleb didn't answer, because he knew. That night came faster than it should have. The house didn't settle. It stayed alert. Even the silence felt awake. The twins refused to sleep alone. Amara stayed with them in their room again, but this time, they weren't asking stories. They were asking questions. "What if she doesn't like us?" Ethan whispered. Amara paused. "Why would you think that?" Noah's voice was smaller. "Because she didn't come back. That one was harder." Amara chose her words carefully. Sometimes adults don't come back because something is stopping them, not because they stopped loving you. Ethan looked at her. "Like Daddy stopped her?" A long silence. Amara didn't lie. But she didn't confirm it either. "I think your father is trying to fix something that got broken a long time ago," she said. Noah frowned. "And Mrs. Lang?" Amara exhaled slowly. "I think she thinks she was helping." Ethan didn't like that answer. "Helping doesn't make people sad," he said. And then he turned over, as if that settled something for him. But it didn't settle anything for Amara. Downstairs, Caleb stood alone again. The letter was still in his hand. Amara found him there later. "You're going," she said immediately. It wasn't a question. Caleb didn't deny it. "She's nearby," he said quietly. "That's not enough reason to walk into something blind," Amara replied. He finally looked at her. For once, there was no barrier in his expression, just something raw underneath. "I've been blind for years," he said. That line stayed in the air longer than expected. Amara softened slightly. "Then don't go alone." Caleb frowned faintly. "This isn't your responsibility." Amara stepped closer. "It became my responsibility the moment those boys asked me to stay." A beat. Caleb looked away briefly, then back. And something in him shifted, not surrender. Decision. The car left before dawn. Caleb was driving. Amara sat beside him. The twins were not with them, but that absence felt louder than anything else. The address from the letter led them away from the city again, this time, further, quieter roads, fewer lights, more distance between places that felt safe and places that didn't. Neither of them spoke much, until Caleb finally said, "If this goes wrong," Amara cut in gently. "Don't finish that sentence." He glanced at her briefly, then back at the road. But the silence after that wasn't empty. It was shared. They reached the location just after sunrise. A small house, old structure, surrounded by trees that blocked most of the view. Not luxurious. Nothing expected. Caleb stopped the car. Didn't move immediately. Amara looked at him. "This is it?" He nodded once. And then, quietly, "She should be inside." Amara's voice lowered. "Or someone wants you to think that." That made him pause. Because he knew she was right. But he also knew he couldn't turn back now. They approached the door together. No guards. No signs of movement. Just stillness. Caleb knocked once. A long pause followed. Then the door opened. And the world didn't explode. It just shifted. Because standing there wasn't Mrs. Lang. And it wasn't a stranger either. It was her. The woman from the photograph. The mother of the twins. Alive, present, looking directly at Caleb, and the first thing she said wasn't his name, it was, "You shouldn't have brought her here." Her eyes shifted to Amara. And for the first time since everything began, Amara realized this wasn't the end of a search. It was the beginning of an explanation no one in that family was fully prepared to hear. The words hung in the air like they didn't belong to a reunion. "You shouldn't have brought her here." Takalab didn't move. Amara didn't speak, and the woman standing in the door. Way didn't soften her expression. For a moment, nobody behaved like they had waited years for this moment. It felt more like everyone had arrived at a place they were never supposed to find at the same time. Caleb finally spoke, voice low. "You sent the letter." The woman shook her head once. "I didn't send anything to the children," she said firmly. Amara stepped slightly forward. "Then who did?" A pause. The woman's gaze shifted not to Amara, not to Caleb but past them, as if she was measuring distance instead of people. Then she said quietly, "Someone who didn't want me found." A beat of silence, and then it clicked. Caleb's face tightened. "Miss Lang." The woman didn't confirm it immediately, but she didn't deny it either. Instead, she said something heavier. She believed she was protecting them from me. Amara's voice sharpened slightly. "By cutting you out of their lives?" The woman looked at her then properly. Not cold, not angry, just exhausted in a way that made the truth feel older than the conversation. She thought I was unstable, she said quietly, and she convinced Caleb that distance was safety. Caleb's jaw tightened. Because you left. That sentence landed differently now. Not as accusation, as memory. The woman didn't flinch. I left, she admitted, but not because I stopped being their mother. A long silence followed. Then she added, softer, I left because I was being erased while still in the same house. Amara felt something shift in her chest. Not clarity, complication. Inside the house there were no dramatic secrets waiting in plain sight, just truth that had been divided into pieces too small for anyone to understand alone. They sat together in a quiet room, not as enemies, not as family yet, just people trying to align versions of the same story. The woman spoke first. Miss Lang was my closest staff member, she said. I trusted her with the children. Caleb's voice was tight. And she used that. Yes, the woman replied simply. Amara looked between them. Why would she do that? A pause. Then the woman said, control. One word. Enough. She believed a stable household required a stable narrative. She continued. And I was the instability she wanted removed. Caleb looked down slightly. Not guilt. Something closer to realization. And I let it happen, he said quietly. The woman didn't argue, because that part was also true. Hours passed. The conversation didn't fix anything immediately. It didn't erase distance or confusion, but it changed direction, slowly, carefully, like something finally being put back into the right order after years of being scattered. When they finally returned home, it was late evening. The twins were waiting. They didn't ask questions at first. They just looked. At the woman behind Amara and Caleb, at the truth standing in front of them without filters now. Ethan spoke first. Are you real? That broke something not painfully, but softly. The woman knelt immediately. Yes, she said. I'm real. Noah hesitated. Then why did you leave? Her expression tightened slightly, but she stayed steady. I didn't leave you, she said carefully. I was kept away. Silence. Then Ethan asked the question that mattered most. Did you stop loving us? That one hit deeper. The woman shook her head immediately. No, she said. Never. A pause. Then quieter. I fought to get back to you. The twins didn't move at first. Then Noah stepped forward slowly and hugged her. Not fast, not dramatic. Just ill. Ethan followed, and for the first time, the house didn't feel like it was holding its breath. Caleb stood a few steps back, watching. Amara noticed him. You didn't lose them, she said softly. He didn't answer immediately. Then, quietly, I almost did. Amara looked at him. Almost isn't the same as gone. A long pause. Then Caleb said something simpler. I didn't know what truth would do to them. Amara replied gently. It was never truth that hurt them. She glanced toward the twins. It was the absence of it. Later that night, the house was different again. Not perfect, not magically healed, but no longer divided by silence. The twins fell asleep with their mother beside them. Caleb stayed in the hallway longer than usual. Amara stood next to him. Neither spoke for a while. Then Caleb said quietly, You didn't have to stay through all of this, Amara looked at him. I know, she said. A pause. Then she added, But they asked me to. Caleb nodded slightly. And for the first time, he didn't argue with that reason. Because in the end, nothing in that house had been built on grand plans or hidden schemes anymore. It had shifted into something simpler, something harder to arrange. People choosing to stay when leaving would have been easier,